Welcome to Top Stories Hub. Today we've got a new story, a mystery you'll want to unravel. I've been busting my hump for years, man, putting in serious effort, always picturing myself behind the wheel of a ride that'd scream I made it. Every single morning, I'd drag myself out of bed at the crack of dawn and grind till way past dark, stashing every spare dime just so I could one day roll up in a slick sports car, a real badge of my hustle. That car. It wasn't just some hunk of steel and rubber to me, it was proof I'd clawed my way up, a solid payoff for all the crap I'd given up. I mapped out every dollar I spent like a battle plan, every move I made with cash aimed at that sweet moment I'd grip those keys and feel the buzz of hitting the jackpot. That dream felt so close I could taste it when I headed out for a big work trip, riding high on what I'd built and chill knowing my wife, Emily, was holding down the fort back home. I had total faith in her, figuring she got how much I'd poured into this and valued it just like I did. But when I got back, dude, this weird, heavy vibe hit me the second I stepped through the door. Our place didn't feel right, like the cozy vibe I loved had ghosted, leaving this eerie quiet instead. And there was Emily, just standing there with this strange, almost smug grin that gave me chills worse than a crisp fall breeze, hitting me with this smooth, flirty, "Hey, honey, good to have you back." This dark, sinking gut feeling grabbed me, something about the way she said it oozed a creepy kind of glee I couldn't wrap my head around. I stood there as she went on, her voice all chirpy and sing-song, laying out how she pulled off something awesome while I was gone, something tied to that car I'd been obsessed with forever. I just locked up, totally thrown by her bringing up my baby like that. "Oh, your car made my mom's getaway downright amazing," she said, her tone thick with this sarcastic pride that stung. For a solid minute, I couldn't even process it, my brain refused to buy what I'd just heard. It was like the vision I'd babied all these years got twisted into some cheap joyride for somebody else. My chest started hammering as I tried to piece together what the hell this meant. Was it possible my car, the thing that showed off every ounce of grit I'd put in, got jacked without me even knowing? This wave of backstabbing crashed over me, mixing up shock and raw pain. Then, out of nowhere, this sharp, twisted chuckle slipped out, half disbelief, half heartbreak. Emily's grin flickered, her eyes popped wide with a quick jolt of freak-out as she snapped, "What's so funny, all rough and shaky?" I stepped in closer, my head spinning from the bomb she just dropped, and I kept my voice low and steady, saying, "'Cause, babe, you just screwed up bigger than you'll ever know." Right then, this heavy shift hit me deep. A mess of fury, hurt, and a tiny flicker of fight lit up inside me like a storm brewing. It sank in that every single thing I'd given up was now smeared with this betrayal. That dream I'd clung to, a lighthouse of promise and wins, got all muddied up with lies. I sucked in a long, slow breath to steady myself, facing the fact that the path ahead was gonna be a rough one I never saw coming. I thought back to those late nights I'd spent shining up my goals, every second powered by dreams of cruising free and owning the road. Now, with this betrayal tainting every one of those moments, winning tasted sour, making me second-guess everything I'd held true. That quiet purr of the engine I'd imagined setting me free sounded more like a sad song now, a constant nudge that trust was trashed. I started wondering if I'd been a fool, letting my big plans and blind faith trip me up. All my schemes, all my trade-offs, felt dirty now, messed up by the one person I thought had my back. Still, even with my heart getting smashed, I could feel this toughness waking up inside me. I swore to myself, no way was I letting this double-cross call the shots for who I am. I'd grab my pride back and put my life together again, bit by bit, even if it meant staring down the ugly truth of what she did. Every word in my tale, every quiet tear I let out, is now scratching out a fresh page of grit and standing on my own. I'm walking into whatever's next with a beat-up heart but eyes wide open, knowing there's a lesson in getting stabbed in the back, and even in losing, there's a new start. I jolted awake in the middle of a jittery night, the sting of betrayal and, what the hell, vibes bouncing around my skull. Every little noise in the dark, the floor squeaking, the wind hissing past the window, kept slapping me with reminders of the trust that's now busted up like smashed glass all over the place. I just lay there, wide awake for what seemed like forever, my brain churning through every second of the last few days, digging for hints or secret signals in stuff Emily had said. Bitterness sat heavy in my mouth, and every thump of my pulse felt like my whole life was coming apart at the seams. I thought about those nights full of endless dreaming, back when I first cooked up a life rooted in love and the hope of making it big. Those times were packed with ideas of a flashy car, tearing down wide-open highways, and chill nights kicking back happy. Now, all that's screwed up by this bombshell I can't even get my head around or swallow. When the first rays of morning snuck into the bedroom, I hauled myself up slow, every move dragging with sadness and should have known better. I shuffled through the house quiet as a mouse, every spot I knew so well now just screamed at me about what's gone. My footsteps bouncing off the walls were the only buddies I had left, ringing through rooms that used to hum with laughs and good vibes. I wandered over to this little desk in the living room where I keep my beat-up leather journal, and with shaky hands, I flipped it open to a blank sheet. I started scribbling, not to spill my guts or beg for a pass, but to pin down the wild feelings that were about to swallow me whole. The words poured out in these long, messy streaks, laying out those hyped-up nights and the gut-punch second it all crashed. Every line I wrote carried the load of memories I'd loved and that now stabbed me in the back. In that peaceful alone time as the sun came up, I started doubting everything I'd ever bought into, the stuff I'd given up for our tomorrow, the crazy hours I'd clocked, the big hopes I'd fed, they all looked drowned in this haze of letdown now. I'd swell up with pride thinking about that car, the trophy of all I'd pulled off, and now it's just some twisted leftover of a lie. It's like that ride, meant to shout out my sweat and tears, got snatched to do somebody else's dirty work, leaving me floating in this mess of broken dreams. This hot anger started bubbling up inside me, a slow burn that could have blown up and torched every clear thought I had left. But mixed in with that fire was this deep, heavy ache, like I was grieving for the plans that had turned to ashes. I dragged myself to the window and stared out at the world waking up. Down below, the streets were already buzzing, totally clueless about the hurricane tearing through me. The peaceful morning clashed hard with the chaos I was feeling, and it hurt like hell. I kept asking myself if that sunlight spilling across the sky could ever thaw out the ice inside me again. Hell-bent on figuring a way out, I decided I had to tackle this backstabbing straight up, not by throwing in the towel, but by hunting down where it all started. I flashed back to nights when we'd whisper promises in the dark, our hearts syncing up with big dreams and quiet oaths. Now, those times are all screwed up with hidden crap and lies. Right then, in this shaky clear-headed second, it hit me, I could either let this betrayal own me or climb over it and take back the guy I used to be. I made up my mind I wasn't gonna be some punching bag for the crap that smashed my world. I started plotting my next moves, keeping every thought careful and on point. I'd wrestle control of my life back, rebuild that faith in myself, and turn this brutal hurt into something tough as nails. Even with the past dragging at me like dead weight, I spotted this faint glow way off, a sign that every rotten finish, no matter how nasty, could kick off something fresh. I knew the road stretching out was gonna be a long, brutal haul, but standing there solo in the soft morning glow, I owned up to the fact that I had to keep pushing, one stubborn step after another, and find that spark still kicking around in me. I headed outside into a chilly morning that hit me harder than any I'd ever felt before. The sting of betrayal and those sour memories from the last few days sat like a rock in my gut. I shuffled toward the kitchen, every step slow and careful, like I was walking over the jagged pieces of trust that had been smashed to bits. My shaky hands fumbled for the coffee pot, and just heating up some water reminded me life keeps chugging along, even though my heart's stuck in a deep freeze. I plopped down at the table, a lukewarm mug in hand, wrestling with my thoughts, trying to figure out what the heck was really behind Emily's moves. I'd always figured our marriage stood solid on truth and dreams we both cared about. Now, that whole idea's falling apart, and I'm just drifting in this messed up ocean of doubt. The quiet in the house was so loud it hurt, every corner bouncing back echoes of old laughs, big hopes, and promises we used to make. Sipping that coffee, I kept running the whole mess through my head, over and over, hunting for little clues I might have missed. Were there sneaky hints in how she talked or tiny moves I was too dumb to catch because I trusted her too much? Those questions were eating me alive. I thought back to our late-night chats about what's next, piecing together our future like some beautiful quilt of grit and wishful thinking. Now, every one of those memories cuts deep, hitting me with the fact that something I treasured is gone. I kept asking myself how I'd ever patch up that trust, how I'd look at the guy in the mirror, the one I thought I knew, without flinching. I got up from the table and drifted to the study, where I stashed mementos from when things were good, snapshots, old notes, little keepsakes that used to mean we were in this together. My fingers grazed a framed photo of us grinning under a sunset that glowed gold, a time when love felt like it'd never break. Now, that picture just taunts me with how innocent it looks, a slap in the face from a vow she trashed with stuff I can't even get my head around or let go of. The room felt icy, like her betrayal had crept into every inch of the place. I sank into the armchair, letting the stillness wrap around me as I tried to glue together the busted-up chunks of what I used to believe in. The day dragged on, heavy and slow, every second stretching out while I wrestled with gloom and a boiling mad streak. I remembered those late nights when I'd grind away, heart full of hope, picturing a life where all my sweat paid off and we'd live better because of it. Now, those dreams are shredded, that shiny car I wanted turned into a messed-up sign of lies and games. It's like the spark in me got snuffed out, leaving me stuck in this hazy mix of, what if, and no way. But right there, in the middle of that emotional tornado, a little fire of grit started flickering. I figured out that if I wanted to get myself back, I'd have to face this hurt square on and fix the cracks running through me. I stood up and wandered to the window, watching the world out there keep spinning like nothing's wrong. The regular buzz of the city felt miles away, fake compared to the storm tearing me up inside. Right then, I made a quiet promise to myself, I'd dig for the real story behind Emily's double cross, no matter how bad it might sting. I swore I wouldn't let this shadow decide who I am. I'd reach way down, pull up the toughness I'd buried, and climb out of this rough patch with a fresh reason to keep going. The road ahead's a blurry mess, full of hurdles, but staring out at that dim daylight, I knew every storm's gotta clear up sometime. I pulled in a long, calming breath, coming to terms with the fact that my road to patching things up and getting it was just kicking off. Every move I made now was about grabbing back the pride and hope I used to own, and I set my mind to push ahead, careful but dead set, even if the truth might slice deeper than anything yet. I walked out the front door, heart heavy and head buzzing with rage and sadness. Every step felt like I was fighting a wave of betrayal that had crashed over everything I had. The house, once my safe spot full of good times and quiet dreams, now just laughed in my face with its empty walls and hollow vibes. I moved through the place slow, each footstep kicking up dust from old happiness and fresh regrets. My brain was racing, flashing back to promises from the good days, promises that now lie busted up like cheap glass all over the floor. In the living room, where we used to laugh and soak in the light, I ended up parked in front of a mirror. I looked hard at the guy I was, the one I thought I had figured out, and the one staring back now, etched with worry lines and a hopeless vibe. That mirror didn't sugarcoat it, it showed eyes that had been stabbed in the back, wandering lost in a maze of second-guessing and should-have-knowns. The hurt wasn't just from her screwing me over, it was the slow rot of trust that used to hold up everything I dreamed about. Every flashback to what I gave up felt like a fresh cut, a mark of all those endless hours I poured into a future that slipped way out of reach. My thoughts drifted to those nights we'd sit and map out what's next, every word stacking up careful-like to build something we both wanted. Those times had soft grins and little nods that made tomorrow look golden. Now, those words just echo empty, and the promises they carried turned into sour ghosts in a room that doesn't feel like mine anymore. I thought about how we'd sketch out every little thing, from small treats to huge goals, and how I threw everything I had into making it real. That car, my proof of busting my ass and chasing big, turned into a weapon of lies, a loud wake-up call that hearts can snap like thin glass. I dropped onto the old couch in the corner, its worn cushion still shaped from years of us laughing and talking low. My fingers ran over the fabric, tracing nothing shapes, each touch a quiet hope for some clarity or maybe even letting it go. I could feel this heat building up in me, a wild spark that could have burned down every sane thought, yet under that blaze, there was this heavy sadness muttering about what's gone and what I wished I'd seen. I kept wondering if I'd been too dumb, too quick to buy into promises that were never gonna hold up. Sitting there, this idea started bubbling up, a rock-solid need to tackle this pain straight up. I knew dodging the real deal would just let it rot into something uglier and tougher to shake. I had to hunt down why she did this, even if the answers hurt like hell. The road stretching out was shaky, packed with roadblocks and brutal facts, but I knew facing that fight was the only way to start fixing my busted-up heart. I decided I'd scrape together every bit of guts I had left, demand some straight talk, and chase down a little piece to tie this up. The quiet in the house got louder as the day crawled by, every clock tick nagging me about time slipping away with no answers. I got up again, hell-bent on ditching the dead-end sadness of that room and stepping into a world that, even with all its roughness, still had a shot at putting me back together. With every move I made toward the door, I could sense the heavy load of my past starting to ease up, giving way to this tiny, tough flicker of hope. It wasn't some clueless optimism, it was a hard-earned drive to push past the backstabbing and take back the future that got ripped away without a second thought. I knew the road stretching out in front of me was gonna be a brutal, aching slog, full of face-offs with the jagged bits of my feelings and the ugly truths lurking in the dark corners. But when I stepped out into the crisp hug of that afternoon, this careful, gritty resolve started building up inside me. I swore I'd tackle whatever came my way with straight-up guts and honesty, letting the bright shine of truth pull me through the murk of lies. Every stride I took was me telling myself I wasn't gonna let other people's crap decide what I'm worth or steer where my life's headed. With the soft buzz of everything around me, I kicked off a fresh page in my story, one shaped not by the marks betrayal left behind, but by the slow, solid climb toward healing and a dead-set hunt for making things right. I kept walking, fully aware that every trip starts with just one step, and sometimes the toughest fights are the ones you slug out inside your own chest. I woke up to a morning draped in thick fog, like even the air was grieving the weight sitting heavy in my heart. Every breath I pulled in was a sharp nudge of the deep hurt that had parked itself in my ribs. I crept through the quiet halls of our place, each step slow and on purpose, ringing with echoes of promises we made that are now just busted pieces. The betrayal that blindsided me and tore my life apart still stuck to me like some dark shadow, leaving me lost but dead set on finding some kind of point to it all again. I shuffled into the little kitchen, spotting the coffee mug I'd picked out last night, still sitting there untouched on the counter. Its plain look carried memories of a million mornings full of quiet grit and hope, times that deceit's gone and messed up now. I filled the kettle and set it bubbling, my head spinning like a thunderstorm. I thought back to those endless nights dreaming of a bright tomorrow, when every tough call I made was a move toward a payoff that feels like a sick joke now. Those memories hit me two ways, warming me up a bit, but mostly twisting the knife, reminding me of what slipped away and what I'm still itching to track down. I dropped into a chair at the table, letting the stillness wrap around me while I ran my finger along the mug's edge. The stale coffee taste hit bitter, mirroring the sourness that's dug into me. I remembered when hope was something I could touch in our house, when laughs and little secrets tied us tight together. Now, the quiet's so loud it's crushing, and every spot in the room's hissing questions about why and how it all fell apart. I couldn't shake the thought, had I been so caught up in my goals and trust that I missed the red flags? A lone tear welled up, a quiet nod to all those restless nights waiting and the dreams I laid down on betrayal's chopping block. Hell-bent on not letting the gloom swallow me whole, I made up my mind to hunt for a fix for the cracks that had split my world wide open. I got up and paced slow across the hardwood, the cold floor keeping me rooted even as my mind wandered back. I pictured how we used to map out a future full of wins we'd share and small victories, a tomorrow that's trashed now, scattered like bits of a broken mirror. In that moment of looking back, I told myself I'd dig up the strength to face the real deal, no matter how much it might hurt. I decided I had to go straight at the lies and secrets, even if the climb was steep and the truth didn't pull punches. I sucked in a deep, steady breath and stepped outside, ditching the walls of that room that had seen both the good times and the heartbreak. The cool breeze brushed my face as I strolled down the street, each step a flat-out no to the despair that nearly drowned me once. I could feel this shaky little spark of determination lighting up, a faint glow in the betrayal's dark. The world kept its steady beat around me, not giving a damn about the mess in my soul. In that early quiet, it hit me, even the worst cuts can start to close up if I let myself chase down some understanding and maybe even forgiveness down the line. I promised I'd scoop up every busted piece of my hope and build something fresh, a future not stuck on yesterday's pain, but shaped by the toughness and bounce back I found in me. With every stride down that beat-up sidewalk, I muttered little pep talks to myself about starting over, set on grabbing back the chunk of me that got lost in deceit's storm. Every second turned into a vow that I'd come out of this low spot stronger and sharper, ready to take on whatever's next with a heart that won't quit. I came to in the faint glow of early morning, my heart heavy and my head buzzing with a million questions. The betrayal I'd taken hit me hard, leaving deep scratches on my soul, and the last few days' memories crept around like spooks in every corner of my mind. I parked myself by the window, watching the sun creep up slow, its weak light barely shoving back the dark that had settled in me. The morning hush didn't do much to ease me, and the house's silence just bounced back every what if and broken promise. I could still hear Emily's soft giggles mixed with hushed secrets she never let me in on, a non-stop kick in the gut about the trust she tossed away like it was nothing. I wandered through the empty halls of our place, every step a sore reminder of the life we used to have. The pictures hanging up, once proof of our love and big plans, now just looked like leftovers from a past that's sweet and bitter all at once. I paused at one photo, my fingers sliding over the frame like I could grab hold of those happy flashes that faded into shadows now. The guy I saw in the mirror was a stranger, weighed down by sadness and screwed over by the one I loved without holding back. Alone in my room, I tried to pull my thoughts together, piecing up the bits of me that got smashed. I thought back to those long nights plotting a future that feels like a fake-out now, a flimsy dream wrecked by betrayal and lies. Every tough grind, every drop of sweat, feels dirty knowing it all went to prop up a sham. Anger and hurt duked it out inside me as I wrestled with the real stuff, wondering if I ever really knew the woman I stood next to. As the day dragged on, I set my mind to facing down those rough memories and finding some clear air in all the mess. I plunked down at my desk and started writing, spilling my guts onto blank pages, desperate to get a handle on how deep this hurt ran. The words came slow, each line a raw dump of pain and stubbornness. I scribbled about those quiet, hopeful nights, the shared tomorrow we dreamed up, and the harsh slap of reality that broke it all apart. Every pen stroke mixed relief with agony, like laying out the truth might somehow stitch up the hole in my chest. Writing turned into a reflection of my soul, showing me the hurt and that faint toughness hiding underneath. I owned up to the dark spots, times I felt totally lost, and swore I'd find a way to climb out. The betrayal left marks that might stick forever, but putting my story down showed me I still had a little fight left in me. I figured out the road to getting right wasn't about wiping out the past, but owning it as part of who I am now. Bit by bit, as I kept writing, I started spotting a faint hope in the knot of feelings. I knew the trip ahead was gonna be rough and full of sore spots, but I got that every scar could turn into something stronger. The stuff I put on paper was a confession and a pledge, that I wouldn't let this backstabbing call all the shots for me. I'd dig for some sense in the dark, and even with those big shadows of looking back hanging around, I was set on stepping into the shaky light of a new day. When I scratched out the last words on that long, heavy page, something shifted in me. The pain was still there, deep and tough, but now it had this thin strand of hope woven through it. I shut my journal and peeked out the window again, watching the sun climb higher up in the sky. Its warm beams stretched into the room, chasing off some of the cold that had been hanging around. I got it then, those betrayal scars might stick with me forever, but they could also stand as proof of the guts I'd found when everything went south. In that calm little moment, I made a quiet promise to myself to keep pushing on, letting what I'd learned from the past steer me instead of holding me down. Even if what's ahead was all fuzzy and unclear, I'd stride through it with my chin up, banking on every step, tough as it might be, bringing me nearer to a time when all this heavy thinking would clear up into something brighter and fresh. I woke up to a day that hinted at something different, even though my heart was still dragging from the ghosts of old betrayals. The past few days had scratched deep lines of hurt and mad into my face, and every move I made reminded me of the load of promises that got trashed. I rolled out of bed slow, feeling like today was gonna make me face not just the leftover ache, but maybe a shot at starting over too. The soft morning light slipped through the curtains, kind of like the shaky bits of hope starting to wiggle inside me. I wandered through the hushed halls of our place, each room quietly shouting about the love we used to share and the losses too big to shake off. Memories of giggles and hushed vows stuck to everything, mixing with the brutal truth of betrayal that had flipped my whole world. Every careful step I took tugged at me, a stubborn need to grab back the pieces of me that got broken. Getting ready for the day turned into this silent "screw you" to the mess. Every little thing, splashing water on my face, picking out my shirt, came with this solid determination. The mirror in the hall didn't just show the bags under my eyes from sleepless nights, it flashed the emotional dents carved by non-stop letdowns. Looking at that guy staring back, I saw someone who'd been through hell but was starting to find the strength to stand up again. I sucked in a deep, steady breath and headed outside, ready to take on the world even with all the chaos swirling in me. The streets were chill, the crisp air whispering that life keeps rolling, slow and steady, no matter what. As I strolled down the pavement I knew so well, my thoughts spun like fall leaves in a soft breeze, each bit of lost trust tangling with a growing itch for a do-over. I parked myself on this beat-up bench under an old oak in the park, a little hideout where I could let all my mixed-up feelings settle down. Sitting there, I let my mind roam free, digging into dreams I'd half forgotten about good times and small wins together. I thought back to nights full of plotting out what's next, pictures of a shiny car, easy rides down twisty roads, and quiet promises swapped in the dusk's glow. Now, those dreams are all scuffed up by lies, but they still reminded me of what was and what I might still pull back. In that heavy, soul-searching minute, I decided I'd find the juice to keep going. I figured forgiveness wouldn't wipe out the hurt or make the betrayal okay, but it could cut loose the thick ropes of bitterness tying me down. I settled on forgiveness being a present I'd give myself, a must-do to heal up and snatch back that little flame of hope still kicking in me. As the day stretched out, the hard edge of my anger started to melt, leaving space for this careful kind of upbeat vibe. I ran through every tough call I'd made chasing a better life, and even with betrayal still biting fresh, I saw those battles had built a toughness I couldn't brush off. Right there, I hit a fork in the road, a second where I picked letting the past teach me instead of lock me up. Getting up from that bench, I felt lighter, like every step away from that peaceful spot peeled off more of the old gloom. I walked with a clear purpose, set on piecing my life back together, step by step, leaning on the rough lessons of hurt and sticking it out. The path ahead was full of bumps and blurry turns, but I took it on with a steady beat in my chest, hell-bent on turning every scar into a badge of making it through. In that slow roll of the day, I let myself open up to change, buying into the idea that even after getting stabbed in the back, there's a shot at coming back stronger and real. Chin high and my spirit quietly fired up, I moved into a future that, yeah, it's unmapped, called me with whispers of healing and a fresh start. I came to with the gentle hum of a new day buzzing through the quiet corners of my heart. The drag of past betrayal was still hanging around, but this soft nudge inside me was pushing for a clean slate. I stepped out into the early light, ditching the wreckage of busted dreams and promises, ready to kick off a trek toward making things right. Every stomp on that worn-out pavement felt heavy but full of promise, like yesterday's scars were easing up under time's gentle touch. I thought back to the hard hits that landed me here, those long, wide-awake nights stewing in doubt, the sour sting of betrayal, and the wild rage that used to eat me up. Now, this fresh grit was waking up in me, a low-key determination to rebuild on the ashes of what I used to have. Strolling down the street I knew like the back of my hand, I let the cool wind and the rustling leaves remind me nothing stays the same forever. My head drifted to all those hours I spent picking apart every little thing, every sneaky lie that cracked the base of what we had. But in the middle of that inner mess, this little light of getting it started shining. I saw that every bruise, every tear I let out, had carved out a road to a tougher, bouncier me. The guy in the mirror these days wasn't just about hurt, he had some staying power and a quiet pride too. I ended up at this little park on the edge of town, a spot where then and now seemed to twist together. Plopped on a weathered bench under this huge oak, I shut my eyes and let my thoughts float. I remembered the promises we'd tossed out, dreams built from late-night whispers, and the big plans for a hopeful tomorrow. Those flashes, messed up by betrayal now, still held scraps of a truth I couldn't dodge. Love and losing it are just threads stitched into life's big picture. In that lone, deep-thinking quiet, I settled on forgiveness not being about giving up, but about setting myself free from resentment's chokehold. I'd take what the past taught me, not let it cage me. The day rolled on, and as the sun climbed up, its warm light started filling me with this shaky sense of starting fresh. I got up from that bench, set on taking back every chunk of my heart that got lost. I started walking, every step a hushed vow to chase the light even in memory's darkest holes. My head, still ringing with betrayal's echoes, found some peace in the idea of patching up. I pictured every time hope peeked through, a grin swapped in calm trust, a soft touch that used to mean always. And I swore I'd keep that spark alive, tiny as it was. Every move I made hauled the weight of what I'd been through, but it also carried a peek at a tomorrow reshaped by strength and smarts. I thought back to all those hours I spent wrestling with my own messed up head, fighting to glue back together the pieces of me that got smashed. Every tick of the clock taught me that getting back on track wasn't about wiping out what happened, but turning it into gas for a better day down the line. The stuff waiting up ahead looked intimidating as hell, and the path was all fuzzy, but I started getting it. Every hurt came with something to learn, every mark a tale of hanging in there. I felt this weird little buzz of thanks for the rough times that toughened me up, even while I was still bummed about what I'd lost. Right then, as things started clicking, I latched onto the thought that life's beatdowns could set me up for a big comeback. I promised myself I'd keep rolling with a careful kind of hope, letting what betrayal taught me lift me up instead of tripping me. That ache from before? It's always gonna be part of my story, but it's not calling the shots for what's next. I stood up, my heart locked in by the quiet sounds of the outdoors and the hint of a fresh start, ready to hit that redemption road with a fire that wouldn't quit. Every step I took spit in the face of giving up and gave a nod to the muscle I found when everything went dark. I pushed on, knowing the haul to feeling whole again was a long one, but every new sunrise dangled a shot at starting over, every breath a grab at life's good stuff again. I woke up to a day that felt thick and steady, like every second since that backstab had been building to this big enough's enough moment. The sun crawled up slow over the edge, throwing long shadows across a house that didn't feel like a refuge anymore, but it also lit up the way ahead. I moved through the silent halls with a solid stride, each echo ringing with lost love and busted-up promises. Every letdown weighed me down, but it came with this firm need to take my life back. I flashed back to the early days when hope and big dreams were spilling over, when every tough choice was for a tomorrow that sparkled. Now, with betrayal scratched into every inch of my heart, those memories stung hard. But that hurt also shaped a new take, who I am and the guy I've gotta turn into. The house, once alive with soft laughs and hushed plans for what's next, stood quiet now, proof of what trusting the wrong person costs you. I stopped in the living room doorway, where the light barely poked through dusty glass. In that still second, I pictured the good old days, grinning mornings, warm hugs, and the cozy shine of a future we shared. Each one was a sweet and sour kick of what's gone, but also a light to guide me on. I knew I had to face down the past, stare right into the pit of my anger and pain, till I could spot the real deal behind all the bull. Heading to the little study, I thought about the endless hours I'd dumped into crafting a life of small wins and huge hopes. That car, once my badge of grinding it out, turned into a leftover of betrayal, a harsh poke that the lies had sliced me deep. Images of my trade-offs and sleepless worrying tangled up with Emily's smile, a grin that covered up secrets and broke everything I'd counted on. My chest thumped with rage and sadness, and I knew today was it, the day I'd square up with the storm inside me. I plopped down at the desk that had seen my quiet spills and non-stop plotting for a tomorrow that's out of reach now. I cracked open a fresh notebook, dead set on scribbling out every buried truth that doubt had piled over. Every word I scratched down was a move toward patching up, allowed, no more, to letting past screwovers define me. With each line, I pulled back a chunk of the me that got lost. I wrote about my flops and my wishes, the trust that got smashed, and the hard-earned lessons that came with the sting. Doing that, I tapped into a strength that was rough and real, born from hurting, but too damn stubborn to give in. Outside, the day kept rolling out with this easy calm. I stepped into the cool air, the breeze brushing off the last bits of gloom. The world out there didn't care about my inner fights, but it dangled a quiet deal that every finish line could kick off something new. I walked the block I knew so well, my head clear and my heart locked in. Each step was a hushed promise to hit the future without the old baggage holding me back. I got that the road ahead was gonna be a grind, packed with tests for this new toughness I'd built, but I was ready for it, saw it as my shot to finally break loose. Right then, this calm rolled over me, a solid feeling that, yeah, the hurt ran deep, but it wasn't running my show anymore. I'd stand tall against betrayal's shadows and let my own grit light the way. That stab in the back cut hard, but it also showed me the strength I'd had stashed inside all along. Now, making my last stand against the dark that used to trap me, I grabbed onto a future rooted in straight talk, self-worth, and the hope of a clean slate. I took a big breath and stepped up, ready for whatever's coming, knowing every move was a win over what was and a pledge to a life full of real hope and bounce back. I got up with the first glow of dawn, this weird mix of grit and calm buzzing through me, like all the busted-up bits of my past were starting to come together for a fresh start. Outside my window, the world was brushed with soft sunrise colors, quietly hinting at a clean slate that dulled the sting of betrayal I'd been carrying forever. Every move I made that morning echoed with memories, some rough, some teaching me stuff, that used to drag me down but now felt like steps lifting me towards something new. I wandered through the hushed rooms of our place, determination keeping my pace steady, thinking back on every tough break and every tear I let out after promises fell apart. That car out in the driveway, the one that used to scream my pride and years of grinding, just sat there now like some old leftover from another time, a sign of what I'd lost that I was ready to turn into proof of the toughness I'd built inside. I hung out for a bit in the doorway of what was our living room, its familiar shape stirring up whispers of old laughs and dreams we shared, now mixed with the low hum of being alone. Right then, it hit me, the wild ride I'd been stuck on was shaping a kind of strength I didn't even know I had. The pain had dug deep grooves into me, but under those marks was a stubborn spark hellbent on taking back what I'm worth. I remembered those sour nights tossing and turning, chewing on everything, and the thick quiet that came after words we never said. Now, with the sun climbing up and lighting up the shadowy spots in my chest, I grabbed onto the fact that every finish line's just the start of something else. When I stepped out, the crisp morning air hit my lungs like freedom. The streets I knew so well, glowing soft in the early light, seemed to nudge me along, like they were cheering me toward a big change. I strolled down the sidewalk slow, each step locking in my promise to put my life back together with straight-up honesty and muscle. The weight of what had been still stuck to me, but I could feel it starting to slip, giving way to this growing hope that beamed like a lighthouse way off. I ended up at this quiet bench under a big oak in the park, a little hideout where I could just sit and let my head roam. There, with the leaves rustling soft and the far-off hum of regular life, I cracked open my journal again. The words spilled out easy as I laid down not just the gut punch of betrayal, but the stuff I'd figured out and the solid drive that had started growing in me. Every line I wrote hacked out a trail to letting go, not erasing what happened, but owning it and using it to fire up a tomorrow full of real-deal hope. I owned up to the screw-ups and the hurt, but I also latched onto the shot at patching up and the chance to grow. When I stood up from that bench, this deep, clear feeling washed over me. The past, scars and all, was baked into my story, but it didn't have to write the pages I hadn't hit yet. I stepped into the bright day with this steady, quiet sureness, knowing every rough patch had gotten me ready for this fresh start moment. The road ahead was gonna throw some curveballs, but I was set to take them on with a heart that wouldn't quit and a head wide open to new shots at starting over. In that gentle, glowing morning, I swore I'd live with some real purpose, letting hope steer me while I turned my hurt into power and my sadness into the guts to grab life with both hands. That's all for today's tale on Top Stories Hub. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me what you'd like to see next.